I'm Mason Mount. You're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
I'm Pat Nevin.
Hi, this is Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
I'm Mason Mount. You're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
Welcome back, Chelsea fans, to another episode of the London is Blue podcast, your home for all things Chelsea FC. Dan, Mike, Nick, and myself cover all the match reviews from the latest Chelsea matches. We cover the team news and even throw you some exclusive interviews. Thank you already for being an awesome listener. And you know what? Let's jump right in.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back. We are making our way through the Premier League on London is Blue podcast this preseason, and Nick and I are back for another preview. Nick, who do we have up this time? What team are we going to get into?
The Red Devils of Manchester United, Dan. They finished 6th last year. We're going to talk a little bit about how that happened and what we might expect this season.
Yeah, we don't want to trigger any bad flashbacks, so we're going to try to be as polite as possible because we too have suffered, Nick, at the hands of the Mourinho multi-season curse, and it's never good for anybody.
It is a factual thing. It just happens, and when he went there, I knew it was going to happen, and now the curse be ridden. I think you guys they're probably going to be okay.
It's like nature.
And there's Alex. Alex is one of the hosts of the American Red Devils. They're at USA Red Devils on Twitter. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, gents. Howdy. I'm Alex from Alex and John of the American Red Devils, and we're just excited to be on. I represent 20 times Manchester United, even though we had an ugly finish to last year, but a little bit of that Mourinho curse. Just to keep it spicy.
Yeah, that definitely is the Diablo sauce on top of the taco right there.
No doubt.
So how did you end up becoming a United supporter? Let's get the audience to know just a little bit about you before we jump in and make you relive some pretty terrible memories.
Well, let's start from the glory days. The seed started young, probably like FIFA 03. And it was a red-haired midfielder that caught my eye, and that was Paul Scholes. And they were probably the best team in FIFA back in the day because they were the best team back in the day. Started from there, and then Manchester United was the team that was on Fox Soccer. Started watching it, and Rooney, when he made the signing after the Euro that he had, that was kind of like the last piece. Got his jersey and went full hog. And then when I went abroad in college in like 07, 08, got to go to my first game. Wigan at home, 4-0, dude, 2 goals from Ronaldo, Tevez, and Rooney. So, and then here we go. And 2 years ago, we started a podcast. Me and a buddy of mine from growing up. So. We've seen the good days, and now we started a pod in the worst of days. So we are just trying to be glass half full kind of guys at this point.
Well, that is definitely maybe a little bit of a harder task than it has been in previous seasons. So maybe talk about what your favorite moment is or has been as a United supporter before we get into last season.
Well, I hate to say it, but my favorite moment, thinking back, it's got to be Moscow, baby, and the slip. And the Champions League, my first Champions League as a fan, so that was a special one for me. Remember the 2 bars switching back and forth, going from the one bar that wasn't even allowing people in to the Red Lion. I'm sure you guys know that spot in Bleecker Street. So that was a special moment for me, but you guys got yours, so that's all good.
Yeah, kind of feel like we should have had more, but that's just how it is sometimes. So,
It takes time.
All right, well, let's get into last season and talk maybe a little bit about what happened for Manchester United. 6th place finish in the league, gets bounced out of the FA Cup after going up against Wolves, loses to Frank Lampard's Derby County in the Carabao Cup, and then in the Champions League ends up getting knocked out by Barcelona in the quarters after a pretty impressive victory over PSG. So walk us through, how do you feel about last season? I mean, there's so much to unpack there, but maybe like at a high level, how do you feel about it?
I mean, gents, I could pack a 60-minute podcast just trying to cover all the emotions that a typical diehard United fan felt last year. I mean, it was a tale of 2 seasons, really. You had the Mourinho, the dying star, just collapsing under his own weight, inevitability of not having signings being made, center backs not being signed, and then him just like going full baby mode. Pogba wanting out after the World Cup, and then that just came to a head. The Liverpool game, and you knew it was lights out for him finally. And then who do you call? Babyface assassin comes in, the legend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like you couldn't have written it in the stars better, comes in right before Christmas and just like, all right, let's go. Boxing Day, boom, boom, boom. One win after another. 9-10 wins on the trot. Then you go down to Paris, had that result, and then like you gave him the contract, and everything kind of fell apart from there. Pogba started acting up. The yogging continued, and then we just completely like, top 4 or top 3 was in our grasp. But like you guys, and everyone was almost like falling over themselves at the very end. All the teams that weren't the top 2 were just kind of like, tripped to the end, and we were just the lowest of that. 6th place is where we landed.
But you guys especially tripped, and I want to talk about this because I think in mid-January we were doing our show, and we always kind of had like a top 6 watch on just to kind of see the movement. There was quite a bit of movement between January and April specifically, and I remember looking at your projected schedule through the end of the year and being like, man, they're on a tear, and they don't have the FA Cup anymore, and they're not in this, in the Carabao Cup, and they really only have a really big Champions League match and some easy Premier League matches. Like, what the hell happened? I mean, you guys had the easiest run in and completely tripped over yourselves.
Dude, the ferry just ran out. I mean, it was at the beginning, we couldn't put a step wrong. Or the Tottenham result, the Arsenal result, the Chelsea result, and then it was actually the FA Cup. I think the FA Cup loss against Wolves. We actually played well. We played better than Wolves. Then we ended up playing them in subsequent games like a month later. Shots didn't go our way. Lukaku should have had a brace and end up losing that game. And then like all of a sudden, like the morale dips a little bit, and certain players start yogging a little bit more and running a little less. And I think it all just kind of like came to a head because we have two of our talismans are like likely on the way out, Lukaku and Pogba. So, there's some bad juju that like was still reminiscent of the Mourinho squad. So I think Ole needed a fresh start this summer, which he's getting. He's not getting the signings, but he's getting a fresh start.
So how did you feel? Because that was a really interesting thing to me where Ole ends up getting, there's the Ole's got his hands on the wheel moment from Rio, and he's talking about it, getting people hyped up. And then he gets this contract, and to me, it felt like the moment the contract was on the table, I felt so much better about how bad the rest of the season was going to go, because I just feel like that is way too much reward for too little proven. How do you feel? How did you feel about that in the season, and then how you feel about that now?
The hard thing, it's very hard for a Chelsea fan to understand, like kind of what Manchester United fans have been going through, like fans that have been around at least for the good times, and now the shit last 6 years. So I think you have to keep in mind is we're used to having one coach, and then we had these 3 shit coaches. Mourinho wasn't a shit coach, and you could argue LVG had his day back in the day, but like long story short, we're not used to this turnover. So like when he came aboard, we happened to have a trip going. So we were at Fulham away. Great game, great win, 3-0 win. And then we went for the home game against PSG at home, and the bar was like rocking. I mean, the bar was like rocking to a level you've never seen, doing Ole at the wheel for 30 minutes straight, because people were just excited to be like proudly Manchester United again. They're feeling good. And then I'm telling you, we just had a little bit of misfortune and just like we kind of just tripped all over ourselves. And then we just couldn't get a result. Like the last 2 games were embarrassing, like shambolic. If you listen to our pod, it's just like, it's dire things. I mean, we've never seen a squad that crap. But that was what kind of crazy season Manchester United fans went through last year.
So if you're rating on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you have landed on rating last season?
1 being the best or 10 being the best?
10 being the best.
1. That's a 1. That's like 6th place is not something that ever was acceptable as a Manchester United fan since I've been a fan. So, and just like the way the players played at the end of the year was like almost shameful, because it's always about, if you're not good enough, that's one thing, but you have to try hard. So there's a lot of lack of effort. I think that was a little bit of Mourinho legacy, because that wasn't his style, hardworking style. And now Ole is going to put that, like they're going to be old English hardworking. And that's going to be the only chance we got is that.
Oh, awesome. Well, maybe beyond that, if we're taking a look back at last season, if you could change one thing, if you have one major regret, what was the one thing that if it had been changed would have...
We should have overpaid for Slabhead last summer instead of this summer. That's what I would have done, because we would have finished top 4, because that center back would be enough.
More Slabhead does it for you? That's what gets you top 4?
You need a starting center back, commanding mountain of a player that can at least play out the back. Phil Jones can't play out the back. Smalling can't play out the back. I'm just saying, you need a player. He's overpriced. He's a Gary Cahill, right? He's a good player, but he's not a great player, but he's still a player, and we needed at least a Gary Cahill in his prime.
All right, yeah, I mean, it definitely, didn't feel like looking from afar that the squad was necessarily set up to, offer. I mean, we had seen the decline of Matic, and somehow he ends up getting a good contract at United, and that was another kind of just interesting decline to watch from afar. But let's talk about maybe a little bit more positive stuff. A couple of players have left. Herrera leaves. Valencia leaves. How you feeling about maybe who's left, or maybe who should still leave this summer?
Well, these are two different things. There's the who should leave and who I'm excited about. So I can give you a diatribe on each, but I mean, there's a lot of dead wood to get rid of. This is not a well-run corporation, right? Manchester United is owned by the Glazer family since 2005, American family that also owns the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they have just they've pilfered the club, and it's just like an unbelievable travesty that will be talked about in the annals of history 30 years from now when they're eventually gone. But you have to keep that in mind, right? So all the bad business, the Herrera leaving on the free, the ridiculous signings over the last 4, 5, 6 years, that's all because of them, because they have this guy who's just an investment banker turned I'm going to run Manchester United. And that can basically explain everything. To the outside observer, that's the simplest way, is everything that's gone wrong is basically down to that. So, sorry, we're talking about players. We had a lot of players to sell, but that's the easiest way to explain it to a Chelsea fan. I think that's important to say.
So we're saying Ed Woodward is a problem.
The Glazer, the ownership is prohibitive. You guys have a very unique owner, right? And that was good and bad and whatever. We can get into that's a whole nother pod, but it's basically just run like a corporation through and through. So now top four is now the table. So they're going to hopefully spend a little money, but it's kind of like the Arsenal mode that they filled into, just enough, but they're not really trying to compete. And that's kind of where we've landed because they can't do any better.
Well, I imagine it's also due to the fact that you look at the top of the table, and Liverpool and City are just so far ahead in terms of where their squad is at, where their organizational structure is at, that even if the Glazers decided tomorrow that they were going to invest every dime they make off United and put it back into the club, would you really think that in 1 or 2 seasons it would make a difference? Do you think there's enough organizationally there to change it?
We're the highest earning club in the league by far. So I think you wouldn't take 2 seasons, but I think 4 years, you spend $1 billion, the same way the City did. You spend $1 billion in the next 4 or 5 years, you can win a title and challenge for trouble. But that's not, we're a long way from that, but it's $1 billion for us.
Well, you guys did spend a little money, and I know we got a chance.
Not well.
Well, we got a chance to see him. Actually, we were over to watch Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. Went to Selhurst Park last season, saw
great stadium.
Wan-Bissaka, and
yeah, he's a great player.
Nick, how did you feel about seeing him head to United? Do you feel like that solved some problems?
Yeah, I mean, it can't be a whole lot worse in the back line for you guys. So I think he is incredibly accurately rated as a player. I think he can get better. I don't always think that, some of the kind of selfish players at Palace, a la Zaha and a bunch of other guys, necessarily did him a bunch of favors defensively. But he legitimately is super quick. And I think, as just watching him track back and track defenders and kind of analyze their movements, he's going to be a really good player for you guys, and a guy that I have a lot of respect for. So I think that was a good signing. I know that it's not necessarily a flashy signing, Alex, but it's one that if I were you guys, I'd be fucking thrilled with.
Dude, I'm pumped. That is that's the kind of signings I want. Premier League proven. He wants to move up to one of the big 6, and he's a great player, bro. Great tackler. He will go forward, right? His attacking stats don't do him justice because he played for a Palace, of course. Who's not a bad team, right? I was fortunate enough to be at Selhurst Park for the 3-2 comeback Matic banger, which I was thrilled to be at. And he played in that game. He's a great signing. $50 million, but that's just $50 million is a new $30 million, and I have no problem with it.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Another signing, I guess, of note would be that Daniel James came in from Swansea, and that was maybe more a little bit of an under the radar signing. But how did you feel about him kind of joining as a attacking option?
I mean, I like it. It's a good for that kind of play, a cheap under 20 million championship player. He's a good player. He's rapid, got a lot of speed, he's got a lot of upside. But we need much more firepower. We need a bang-on striker like a Dybala, someone who's proven at the highest level. He's great to have, right? We did the same kind of move with Delo last year, and I think he's already going to make more of an impact because the championship. He's ready to go. But we need a lot more. But for the price, there's no complaints at all.
He's not going to be there this year, though, right? I mean, he's going out on loan, most likely.
I don't think so, actually. I think
Really?
I think Ole rates him. I mean, he's been playing in every game. He's gotten the shit fouled out of him by Spurs. Sissoko basically stomped him in the 25th minute. We did the pod right before this, and he would have gotten a red card in a Premier League game, but it doesn't matter. It's just that I think he'll play. He's got that grit that he will definitely be useful in some capacity off the bench.
So another kind of interesting thing there is, if Juventus come and they try to sell you a striker, just make sure it's not Higuain. We'll just put that advertisement out there. Don't get the old bait and switch from the old lady.
Oh, we took our hands off of that. I mean, Murata must have taught you some kind of lesson at least, right?
Yes, yeah, we're happy to be done with that saga of our.
Hey, we shared Falcao, so it's all good. We both made that mistake, one after another. You're like, well, I'll give him a try too. Why not? He sells jerseys.
Oh gosh. So as we kind of think about those rivals' departures, any one player you'd like to see gone now before the end of the window? Anyone that you'd like to see come in if you could do one in and one out?
I mean, anyone or likely?
Likely. I mean, we're not going to get Ronaldo coming to the UK, but
we could hope, and not anymore. He's going to MLS, I think, to retire for 5 solid years after he's done winning Champions Leagues at Juve, but that's another story. So one player out, I just want to get Phil Jones out for once. Just send him on his way somewhere else, and I think that's just about time. It's been too long. And I'd like to get Bruno. I was in Portugal a couple of weeks ago, and I had a bunch of people talk. They were very hot on Bruno. No, we're going to play a little bit more than he's worth, but we have to take a punt on a player like that because the type of player City would buy or Liverpool these days. So it's $55 million is the fee I'm hearing. I would be very excited to have him play as a second number 10 along Pogba in a 2-2-2-2. Yeah.
Well, that would be very interesting if he does make it into the squad before the end of the transfer window. But as we kind of go forward, let's talk a little bit about your views, Alex, as a supporter for United, taking a look at Chelsea today, and maybe kind of get your thoughts or your questions on the whole Sarri out and then Lampard comes in. How are you viewing that as an outsider?
I mean, okay, when I get past just the bad blood I have against Chelsea, which is part of a compliment, because I think when I became a big fan, which is 07, 08, we were the two big guns in England. So it's more of a compliment than anything. Is that one of my most visceral old school rivals is Chelsea. I always hate Chelsea first, even though it's Liverpool and then City and then maybe you guys, but that's out of love now. So what I'm saying is I kind of see us both going through the same kind of phase where we're kind of stuck in a position we don't want to be in, and you have your own kind of misgivings, and as do we. And now we're having an old legend come back and have a punt on his managerial debut. You're going to have all these loanees from around the world that you can kind of bring back in. We've got a very solid academy, so it's it'd be interesting to see how it plays out, because I think those models might work better than would be expected, because that's what's happening in Wolves, right? It's just hardworking system, old school, play football that makes sense. But I think it'll be a success for Chelsea.
Wow. All right. Well, that's exciting. I'm glad to hear the reinforcement of that idea from a United fan, no less.
I mean, I want you to fail. I want you to fail miserably and be below us. But I'm just saying, I actually think it'll work, because it's smart. It's smarter than getting a big name coach that's a lot of money that wants to just have immediate success. He'll get more time, and that's part of why you do it, because he gets more time from the fans. And you guys are even more fickle than we are, so it's important.
Oh yeah, we are more fickle than you. Let's see, Pulisic. That's kind of a big one that we've been talking to everybody about. I mean, obviously, as Americans, we are particularly thrilled with this move, and we were actually at Stamford Bridge that day. It was announced in January, which was pretty special for us. So. What are your thoughts on him? It's obviously the Premier League's a whole different ballgame, right?
No, it is. I mean, I think he's a great player, and I'm jealous that you guys got him. I would have loved to have Pooley running down the right wing at Old Trafford, and he still will be. But it's a great signing. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure with Hazard leaving and Pooley not coming in, and you guys having I don't know, quote unquote transfer ban, whatever that means these days. But I want him to do well. I think he will do well, but I think you need a year. That's the rule we always talk about on our pod, is you need a year from another league, unless you're a Dybala usually, to kind of be all right, you have a year to adjust. And then I just want to make sure that you guys give him a year, because he might still need a year because he's a young guy. And it's a big step up to the Premier League.
Well, he will have, I think he's going to be given, much like Frank, I think he's been given a little bit of time to adjust. And maybe to your point with this transfer ban and with, a lot of youth talent coming into the club, who previously didn't really have a chance. I mean, it's an interesting time for us. Is there any one of those kind of youth talent, types of guys at Chelsea that you're looking at and saying, holy shit, that guy's going to be really good?
At Chelsea, I can say on my squad, who's good? I mean, who's the Hudson-Odoi? I saw him play in a couple matches last season. What you guys? He's someone you guys highly rate because he looked pretty good from what I saw of him.
He's going to be quite good. He's just about to sign a 5-year extension, so that is very exciting for a team that can't really sign anyone. We're having a pretty good window thus far in terms of re-signing. But yeah, it's basically, the crop that you're looking at is Hudson-Odoi, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, and like Reece James, I would say, as a right back. So like that crop of guys, for your knowledge, has not really, because we've been able to go and spend $1 bajillion on players just like you guys haven't really been given the same type of pathway to the first team like maybe United's, some of United's youth players have been given. So that's what we're doing.
Well, Ake is one of the players that I know it's not one of the ones you mentioned, but he's someone that I've always rated now at Bournemouth that, like, I don't know if you get rid of an Ake ever, right? Isn't it always good to have a center back like that? That's just useful forever in my mind, but correct me if I'm wrong.
He's one of my favorites, and I was really sorry to see him go, but yeah, look, it's an exciting time for us there just because I think we constantly analyze, just like you do, kind of who's coming up next, right? You know who's in the first team currently, but there are always a couple of spots where you're like, well, what if we gave this guy a chance and see, with a little bit of extra motivation, what he might be able to do.
Well, who should United be frightful of? Who do you guys rate the most of your academy guys coming up?
I'm still super excited about what Mason Mount is going to do this season. So 11 goals, 5 assists, all competitions under Frank Lampard at Derby last season. Amazing motor, great presser, good on a dead ball opportunity. Great actually from shooting outside the box as well. I think that now that he has had a year to really play a very high pressing, very high tempo rate underneath Lampard, that he's going to come in and be a little bit of a director, like talisman on the pitch to try to help get Frank's idea across as quickly as possible and execute at a high level. Nick might disagree, but that's the guy I'm pointing to.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, my guy got hurt really late in the season. That's Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I know he's a little bit older than the other guys. When he's healthy, he's going to terrorize this league. I mean, he's so big and so strong and so good with the ball at his feet and such a good passer. And he's starting to finally get the outside of the box shot somewhere around goal more frequently. I'm looking at him and I'm saying, like, by the time he's like 26, he's going to be just a wrecking ball in midfield. And I'm really excited about that personally. But any youth talent at United that we should be acutely aware of, Alex?
I mean, there's quite a few, but Scott McTominay, I think he is the real deal. He's like someone that was spotted under LVG, and every coach liked him, including Mourinho. So I think if you can remember one, Scotty McTominay is the one to remember.
McSauce, God.
He's legit.
Oh, that is quite wonderful. Anything else, on the state of Chelsea, on what the club is doing, anything that you kind of take away as a supporter, just, of United looking at us from afar? Like, is it, do you think that we're a crazy club because we hire and fire with basically indiscriminate types of actions? Is it because of the players we're signing recently? Like, what are your kind of maybe your current thoughts or final thoughts about looking at Chelsea?
I want to get invited back on the pod, so I have to be.
Oh no, you can be mean. Don't pull punches. We want the real Alex here.
You don't want the real Alex. Oh no, but like it depends. I mean, you guys are Americans that grew up being Chelsea fans, so you've only known the Abramovich years. So it's like, I respect that. I get it. It's the name of the day of global football these days. But dude, at the end of the day, I feel is hollow, 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 and that's our chant for you guys. So I'm sending you my love and wishes from the American Red Devils. But I'm it's still the rivalry that I grew up with.
All right. Well, maybe we're not inviting him back on the pod again, Nick.
I told you. I told you.
So what's your chant for City when you look at when you have the your derby? Is it what's the kind of cheer that you'll throw at them?
Kicking a blue. That's how we end we end every podcast with kicking a blue. Fought in France, fought in Spain, fought in the snow, and fought in the rain. Took the Scouts and the Chelsea too. But what we like most is kicking a blue, and that's my favorite chant. Especially now because they're such a better run organization from a business perspective, technically wise. The players they sign, like who they have like running the club, it's like a shell corporation, but that's neither here nor there.
Where do you
they're
stand?
quite good.
Where do you stand? Or I know I'm asking a leading question, but the whole Glazers out mentality, the whole trying to drive them to change in action, where do you think, maybe the supporter base is at, and like what action do you feel like the fan base might be able to actually enaction this year with a concerted effort?
Well, here I can only speak from my perspective and perspective of the American Red Devils, because I am one of the co-hosts. This is like, we are as Glazer out as you get. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the clown that was circulating.
No,
but there was a clown that was of Avram Glazer. It was just a riff off of the Goodell clown that that was personified in the United States, and we did it for Avram Glazer because he's the head of the board. He's the number one honcho, and it got picked up a little bit during the Glazer out movement. Now we're selling the shirts. My buddy did it custom in house, John, the other co-host. So we are Glazer out because they are the problem. They're like they are the root source of everything. And you could trace the slide all the way back to 2005 when they were bought. Like Fergie would have even won more if he was backed properly. But we're as Glazer out as you get.
Well, that is. And do you think anything could happen this season? With do you see any efforts being taken? Do you feel any maybe petitioning, or are there going to be banners flown on above Old Trafford? Like, what's the strategy going to be? And do you think anything will come of it?
I mean, I think they're actively looking to get bought, which is kind of why they've been so slow to move in the market. They haven't bought it. The transfers activity thus far has been like very minimal. So the theory we think is that like they're actually actively looking to deal the club, maybe to the Chinese, maybe to the Saudis. But there's nothing you can do, right? Like, you guys know that having things go over the stadium, it just makes the fans look bad. So all we can do is not buy the stupid Chevrolet jerseys this year. Not, try and avoid putting money in their pockets. But what can you do? You still support your club. I still have to pay for MUTV if I want to watch, the academies play and, all the games. So you're conflicted, but you have to be out because that's the problem. They're not spending money.
Well, it is a worthwhile endeavor. It's nice, I think, Nick, though, to have an owner who's so invested, who's really made it about.
What's the latest?
About the trophies. Look, you can't get into the country, and it's an unfortunate geopolitical situation that has occurred. But I think when you look at what we've done in terms of getting Petr Cech back involved from a technical standpoint, putting Lampard in place, really getting a couple of these youth players that are so promising to sign an extension. Petr talked about how he talked with Roman about his appointment into the technical advisory role. He's there. He wants to watch us win. He was in Boston for the anti-Semitism match that we were all had a chance to go to. So it's a guy who loves his club, and I think it's just an unfortunate situation where he can't be present. And you know what? I feel like I miss seeing him there. I miss seeing the camera pan up to him and him being excited because we score a goal, because he is an owner who gives a damn, and that's not something you can say when you look at United about what those owners actually care about. And this is a guy who at some point will probably want to give the club over to his son or one of his children and allow them to shepherd it into the next generation with the family inheritance. And hopefully that love of the club is transitioned in appropriately and cemented in. And as long as the club is making smart decisions to stay competitive, I'm over the moon with what he has done for the club and continues to do.
Yeah, the geopolitics is the rough part, man. Like, if we're honest, like it's not football controlled. This transfer ban is football controlled. It's like the governing body, which is as corrupt as any of the clubs have been in signing players, have determined that Chelsea have violated one of their rules, and now we're getting punished for it. So that's the thing you can look to and say, like, okay, that's football, geopolitics and how the Russians
It's for another pod
are doing
so
stuff.
you think the football matters.
It's difficult though, because it affects kind of our week in, week out perspective on, some of these questions that you're just asking us, like we have any effing idea, to be honest. Like we're just kind of, projecting like we can, but yeah, it's a little tough. It's a little tough for sure.
Hey, well, I feel the pain as well as a former investment banker trying to analyze all the money they're wasting and all the money they're taking off the table. You're better off just sticking to the football matters. Otherwise, it just brings you down.
All right. Well, we will get ready to wrap this up here. But before we do that, we need some predictions from you. And if you want to go on your podcast and make different predictions before the start of the season, that's okay. We will only hold you to the ones you make here. But
Fair enough.
League table position for United, end of the season, 38 matches, done and dusted. Where do you finish?
4th.
Ooh. Who's your 1, 2, 3?
Liverpool, City, Tottenham, us, you, Arsenal.
Wow, bold. Liverpool with the title win too.
They finally do it. 30 years. 30 years, they get it.
Oh, well, I for one, and I know Nick agrees with me, hopes that doesn't happen, because that will signal the end times. The portals will open to a different vortex, and the earth.
Oh, they're the worst. I know
itself.
they're the worst of the worst. That's why I can't even go. I won't even go on a Scouts pod. So they're the worst of the worst, and they'll only get worse if they win a Premier League title. But you guys, we have that in common for sure.
Well, we will root against that together. So, in terms of maybe more realistic titles for both Chelsea and for United this coming season, maybe some league, domestic silverware, FA Cup, League Cup. Do United win 0, 1, or both? And if they win any, which ones are they winning?
Well, based on the transfer window we've had, unless we pull off like a mega swoop Pogba Dybala cruise trade, I think it's 4th and hope maybe an FA Cup if the boys are riding high under Ole.
Okay, and so I had to edit the script here last minute. I was gonna ask you about where you were gonna finish in the Champions League this season, but I had to remind myself because I used the template on the last podcast we did with Spurs, and so I just copied the template and I made the edits, and I didn't head to the end of the script.
Very good, very good.
And so I needed to edit it. So Europa League.
How many Premier League titles do you guys have? How many did you have before Abramovich? Less than Everton? Yeah. Keep going.
I mean, about the same since we both started watching. So if you're gonna pull that,
It's 03. Let's do it. I'm just saying. Just since you started watching, because that's when history started. When we started watching.
Yeah. Well, that's when our history started. You're in the Europa League because you were terrible at the end of last year.
So we were just a little less terrible than you guys.
Yep.
A little more terrible.
You were quite a bit more terrible. Quite a bit. Tell me about the Europa League. Tell me how this is going to go. Thursday night football, bright lights. Belarus on a Thursday.
They tell you what, they don't get an individual breakdown on a pod for a Thursday night. That's the rule. We cover it, but we don't do the preview pod. Thursday nights is casually covered. Is imagine you lot covered it, right? Which is just you do it, but you don't make it a big time event. So
boy, we did our best, man. It just that schedule is rough.
It is, dude. Thursday nights kill you.
Yeah, I don't envy you guys heading into this year because it nearly broke us at the end of the year. But
it wasn't even the Thursday nights; it was the fact that all our games got moved to Sundays then.
Yeah,
and so you were doing this awful schedule of okay, we'll do a recording. This is me complaining about podcasting, so anybody who hates that self-referential piece should probably fast forward 30 seconds.
Check your privilege, Dan.
Record on a Thursday and then record again on a Sunday, and there was just not a lot of breathing room. So, but you know what? Worse for the teams, worse for the supporters who had to travel to the actual matches. What a crock of shit. And thankfully, we're back in the Champions League, so it's not a bother. But we just have to stay there this season. That's the focus. And you already gave the other answer, which I was going to ask, where do you think Chelsea finished in the table? You think they will finish 5th below United. So maybe, since you think United is going to be 4th, what's the point differential going to be between Chelsea and United at the end of the season?
It's going to be a whisker. 2 points. It'll be 71-69. It'll be very tight.
Wow. Oof. Photo.
It's gonna be tight all
finish.
season because we're. It's gonna be comparable. I think the starting. I can't wait for kickoff in 2 weeks. It's gonna be great because it's gonna be a good test of where both of our teams are. So
Who wins the first matchup?
I think it's United 2-0 at home.
Oh, Nick, do you have an early feeling?
Yeah, no, I think that's about right. I mean, and frankly, like,
Who's your
I'm
striker?
not even.
I don't even know. Like,
It's not Gonzalo Higuain.
I'm just curious. I don't know. I'm
It'll
like,
be
I'm
Giroud.
told-
Giroud will start.
and Drew's not a bad striker.
No. So I think we'll probably. I don't think we're going to win the first match, but I also don't think. I'd rather play you guys away in the first match than in April. So I'm excited that we're getting that one out of the way early and can, we got Liverpool at home 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. So it's going to be
Pretty great way to start
good.
the season. It'll be super fun. It'll be a fun game, and it's always a fun.
Well, and I think the interesting thing, right, is the optics actually either way will work out really well for either side, regardless of the result. Like if there's a draw, it's both sides are still figuring things out. They're getting things put in place. They're building the foundation. Either side loses. It's a tough first match to take in for either of these sides that are really kind of restructuring themselves. And the winner, gets to say, they caught, the narrative could be, well, they caught the team early and they're the beneficiary of the moment. And like ultimately, like framing the result is going to be very easy for every, I think, supporter to justify whatever the result is, regardless what it actually ends up being on the day and date.
Couldn't agree more. That's why we should save it for the next pod, mate.
We should indeed. Well, Alex, part of the American Red Devils, you got to check out their podcast if you want to hear them talk about United. But thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. And you know what? We would invite you back. I think Nick would agree with me.
I was on the edge there for a minute. No, I'm kidding. It was good times.
Guys, enjoyed it. Hope to hear from you soon. And glory.
Oh, well, we can't
We're
end
gonna
it
cut
that
that
way.
out. We're gonna cut it out.
I think we have to bleep that one out. We just gone.
There's going to be some editing, creative editing done at the end there.
You know what's interesting is that we weren't actually at an explicit
I
rating
forgot.
until he said
That's
that.
true.
So that
I'm
actually
sorry,
happened.
fellas. I'm sorry. It's a little extra editing. You guys edited it as you like.
All right. Well, from Nick and myself and the rest of our London is Blue crew, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Until next time, keep the blue flag flying high.